Very good morning, Business Breakfast. Thanks for all your messages on the new directive for women on boards of directors. We are going to track down our guest on that subject sooner rather than later. Appreciate your messages.
Business headlines on Dubai Eye 103.8.
With JAFSA, named top free zone for sustainability, non-fiscal incentives and industrial excellence at the FDI Global Free Zone of the Year Awards 2023.
The US Federal Reserve and the UAE Central Bank cut interest rates sharply overnight by 0.5%. The UAE base lending rate is now 4.9%.
Yeah, the Fed Chair, Jay Powell, said he expects multiple further cuts in the coming months as the US economy and the labour market cool.
And we've got Eldar and Mubadala, meanwhile, the first of two big deals coming out of Abu Dhabi in the last 24 hours, setting up a number of real estate joint ventures worth more than 30 billion dirhams.
The other big deal is Abu Dhabi's MGX, tying up with BlackRock and Microsoft in a partnership that aims to raise and invest up to, get this, $100 billion in AI infrastructure.
Private joint stock companies in the UAE will need to have at least one woman on their board under new rules from the Ministry of Economy.
And UK inflation staying steady at 2.2% in August. Now that's just above the Bank of England's 2% target. Their central bank will make a rate decision later today.
Property Pulse.
With Espas Real Estate. Think Dubai Real Estate. Think Espas Real Estate.
Well, speaking of interest rate cuts, feels like we have been discussing the possibility of a cut and its effect on the real estate market for about 50 years with John Lyons. And finally, we are here. And so is he, John Lyons, Managing Director of Espas Real Estate. John, good morning.
Good morning.
We've been practicing this one for a while.
We have, and we've been talking about interest rates for a while as well, many years now on this show, and it feels like it was only yesterday, although it was 2 years ago today, I was realising that interest rates went up 0.75%, and we were talking about the impact that might have on Dubai real estate. So now it's good to be talking about the cutting cycle.
It is. But do you know what? Before we talk about the cutting cycle, I want you to actually talk about what you've just mentioned, which is those rising rates, and explain first why over those 2 years the Dubai real estate market has managed to, and boom doesn't even do it justice, absolutely nail those records and continued growth despite that high rate era.
Yes, it has done, and it was interesting for me to review some of the notes, and I looked at some of the recordings from the interviews that we had a couple of years ago, just to get some context for where we're, this is a big moment now for the market, having talked about interest rates rising for so long. Now we're talking about interest rates falling. And a couple of years ago, we did discuss the fact that although rates were rising, and at that time it was up 0.75%, and 2 years ago today we were already 6 months into the rate hiking cycle, and there were some pretty big hikes. There was 0.75 many times in a row, 4 times in a row, I think. And at that time, we pointed out the fact that Dubai's market needed higher interest rates to cool things down a little bit, and that nobody really wanted to see 25% annual rates of appreciation for property. It wasn't that healthy for the country going forward.
That
so
worked, didn't it?
Well, the rates going up did obviously make the market cooler than it would have otherwise been if rates hadn't risen. But we also pointed out in the conversation a couple of years ago that our ability to absorb higher interest rates here was greater than the ability of the US to absorb those same higher interest rates. And we talked about the fact that it was more likely that the US would slow down and get to the point of needing lower interest rates before we had the need for lower interest rates. And I would say that's what's happened. This rate cut of 0.5%, while it is more necessary for the US, it doesn't really feel like it's necessary for us right now. So it's going to be a tailwind, quite a big tailwind, when we don't really need it.
Okay, well then, talk to me about what effect the rate cut could have on the market.
Well, straight away, it's going to make the financial case for buying properties to live in them rather than renting those same comparable properties. It's already pre-rate cut been the case for a long time now, that the financial benefit on a monthly cash flow basis of owning your own property rather than renting that same property has been significant. The rate cut now increases that case. The gap widens even further. So we're going to see mortgage rates come down. We already have seen some banks come in with lower mortgage rates. We're going to see more come towards the end of this month. And the case for owning property is greater than it has ever been in Dubai.
Given that those who don't own are currently sitting there, or those that have sold in the boom are sitting there waiting for prices to come down, for the next phase of the cycle to come in, could it soften any price drop-off that we would see?
Yes, I think that the people who are looking to enter the market, this is not great news for them. Necessarily, although it does make the access to mortgage products more affordable. But if you're still waiting to save up your deposit, you're probably hoping that prices will come down. I don't think that that's going to happen anytime soon. What those people will be looking for is the impact that supply can have in the years ahead. That's really potentially their savior to keep prices in check while they're saving for their deposit to be able to buy.
Okay, so let's talk about supply, because you mentioned the US market, and one of the things this rate cut will do in the US is it will ease up supply. They've got, people get mortgages almost for life, and so if mortgage rates are high, you don't want to let go of the 30, 40-year mortgage that you have. We don't do our mortgages like that. What effect could ours effectively have on supply?
Yeah, so I don't think that we're in the same scenario as they are in the US, where people fall in love more with their mortgage product over recent years than they have with the property itself. And as you say, that has prevented people from selling. Now that will ease up supply in the US, but we've not really had that situation here because 2, 3 and 5 year fixed rate products have been the norm, not 20 or 25-year fixed rate products. But you could argue that some people that had a 2.5% or a 3% fixed rate mortgage that were also in love with that mortgage here in Dubai might now see the opportunity to sell and upsize or downsize or take their next move, given that their next purchase will be with a more affordable mortgage product than would have been the case 6 months ago.
What does it mean for all the off-plan stuff set to come to market? 75% of our sales last month, according to ValueStrat, were off-plan. A lot of those sold in the last couple of years will be inching towards the point where people will put a mortgage on the last chunk. Could we see more of those initial buyers holding and paying it off with a lower mortgage than we might have done? Less stock coming out from those off-plans?
I think that it's difficult to try and see how much impact it's really going to have on the off-plan market. For me, lower interest rates is likely just to increase people's desire to find an alternative place for their capital rather than, for example, in cash fixed deposits within the banking system, which have already come down, and they're going to come down significantly over the next 12 to 18 months. And the people that are sitting with money in fixed deposits are going to be thinking, what do they do with that money? Some people will look at real estate. They'll look at many other asset classes, but some of that money will flow into real estate, and some people might take the speculative position in the off-plan real estate market because it's quite nice to invest in an off-plan property knowing it's not going to be handed over for 3 years and you don't have any of the management hassle that is attached with owning a property that already exists with tenants. So for more passive investors who want to now take a bit more speculation in the market, the off-plan market is potentially a good place for them to look.
When are we going to see the effect of this rate cut kick in? Because, depending on which analyst you're listening to, we're going to see another 50 basis points, maybe even 75 before the end of the year and more into next year. What's the lag in terms of the effectiveness? Will people sit out this dance thinking it's still going to get better?
Well, we've certainly got a situation where mortgage rates have already dropped. Even before the rate decision, there was a bank that came into the market just in the last couple of days in anticipation of this rate cut, and they've come in with a rate that is at 3.79% fixed for 2 years. That is more competitive than what has been the best rate in the market for the last couple of months, which was 3.94%. But we're expecting many more mainstream banks to now, at the end of this month, come out with much more competitive mortgage products that will be at least 0.25% lower than where they are today. That's what we're expecting. Buyers are now also waiting for that moment. So our mortgage team, they are inundated with inquiries, but the borrowers do not want us to submit the application for another 2 weeks. They want us to submit the application on the 1st of October when the new rates are hit the market. So it's already going to have an immediate effect. It's not going to be the case that we have to wait for 6 months to see any impact from this. People are making decisions right now because of what's happened with interest rates.
And we're going to keep John for a little bit longer. John Lyons, Managing Director of Aspas Real Estate, speaking to us on the Business Breakfast this morning.
Dubai Eye 103.8 traffic.
With Yas Island Abu Dhabi. Stay at iconic hotels and play at record-breaking theme parks. Book now on yasisland.com.
No major issues down in Abu Dhabi. Into Dubai, Hessa Street and Sakim Street still reporting heavy traffic at the moment. There's heavy traffic heading north on the 44. That's from Dubai Hills up towards Maidan. A couple of accidents as well being reported in and around the approach to Dubai Mall this morning into the downtown area. And still very busy coming in to Dubai from Sharjah.
Dubai Eye 103.8 traffic.
Keep your messages coming. We'll put them to John Lyons.
Weather check.
With Air Arabia. Get an early start with Air Arabia's convenient city check-in service with location